They say cops don't cry, but rain hides a lot. Officer Brooks sat beneath a rusting bus stop awning, his uniform damp, shoulders slumped like the badge on his chest had grown heavier with each passing hour. The kind of weight no gym could lift. His patrol car idled 2 blocks away, wipers beating a tired rhythm against the windshield. But Brooks needed space, needed silence. He pulled out a gas station sandwich from his coat, the plastic wrapper crinkling louder than he liked in the quiet drizzle. Ham and mustard. It was cold, soggy around the edges, and smelled like boredom. Still, he bit in. Not because he was hungry, but because chewing gave his jaw something to do other than lock in frustration. Across the street, gutters overflowed. A crumpled soda can floated by like a tiny lost boat. Brooks stared at it blankly, swallowed another bite. Today had been uneventful, a noise complaint, a minor fender bender, a teenager caught shoplifting batteries. But inside, he felt drained. Like something in him was waiting for, he didn't even know what. He wouldn't have noticed it if not for the shift in energy, like the air itself paused. Then he saw the shape. A dog. Small, wiry, and soaked to the bone. Standing on the edge of the road. No collar. No leash. Just dripping fur and ribs that pressed against his skin like the memory of better days. Brooks froze mid-chew. The dog didn't bark. Didn't whimper. Just stared. It wasn't the usual look of a stray hunting for scraps. It wasn't desperation. It was something else. Those eyes didn't plead. They asked. A question so quiet, so pure, it landed louder than a siren. Can I join you? Brooks blinked as a raindrop rolled down his temple. The dog took a step forward. Just one. Stopped. Waiting. Brooks looked at the sandwich in his hand. It was nothing, just cheap bread and cheap meat. But suddenly, it felt like an offering. He tore it in half, knelt down, and gently placed a piece near the edge of the shelter's dry patch. I don't have much, he said softly. But you can share it if you want. The dog didn't pounce. No wild hunger. No lunging. Instead, he stood still for a moment. Like he was reading Brooks, checking if the gesture was real. Then, with delicate steps, he approached. Ears back, body low, but eyes never breaking contact. He sniffed the food, nudged it once, and took a small bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Then another. Brooks watched in silence. This wasn't an animal tearing into scraps. This was something reverent. Like both of them understood, this wasn't about food. It was about being seen. The dog finished eating and sat a few feet away, under the awning now, but not crowding. Just present. Brooks let out a slow breath. Didn't expect company today. The dog tilted his head slightly, as if acknowledging the sentiment. Not begging. Not moving. Just sitting in quiet agreement. They sat together in stillness for a long moment. The rain continued to fall, muffling the world around them. Brooks pulled a napkin from his coat pocket and wiped his fingers. You got a name? He asked gently. Or are you one of those ghosts that just show up when someone needs them? The dog blinked. Brooks chuckled under his breath. Right. Didn't think so. He leaned back, stretching his legs out. Something in his chest loosened, a tightness he hadn't noticed before began to dissolve. You remind me of someone, he said after a while. Used to sit just like that. Didn't speak much. Just listened. A gust of wind cut through the shelter, and the dog shivered slightly. Brooks frowned. He unzipped his coat halfway and draped a corner out toward the ground. Come here, he murmured. Not trying to tame you. Just don't want you freezing. The dog hesitated, then stood. No wagging tail. No excitement. Just trust. Quiet, cautious trust. He padded over and lay beside the bench. Not on it, but close enough that the coat's edge sheltered part of his back. And that's where they stayed. A tired officer and a nameless dog. No badge. No bark. Just two creatures who recognized the same storm in each other, and chose to sit through it, together. Most strays disappear with the food. This one stayed, with something more. The morning after the rain, Officer Brooks walked into the precinct parking lot still half asleep, coffee in one hand, radio in the other. The drizzle had stopped, replaced by a biting wind that cut through even the thickest coat. He didn't expect to see him again. But there he was. The same muddy brown dog. Sitting just outside the station doors, tail sweeping slowly across the concrete like a soft metronome. His ears perked as Brooks approached, but he didn't bark, didn't whine. Just waited. Brooks paused mid-step. "You really came back?" The dog rose to his feet, gave one quiet wag, and sat again. A part of Brooks smiled. The other part, worried. By mid-morning, the story was all over the squad room. "Hey Brooks," one officer called out, smirking. "You recruit a new K9 unit or just needed someone who listens better than your ex?" Another chimed in, "What's his name?" "Officer Wet Nose." Brooks rolled his eyes but didn't respond. Truth was, he didn't mind the teasing. It was the attention that made him nervous. Captain Miller stepped out from his office mid-shift, clipboard in hand and eyes sharp as ever. He barely needed to speak. His gaze landed on the dog, then on Brooks. He didn't smile. "Policy's clear," Miller said flatly. "No non-registered animals near the station. You want to feed him? Fine. But don't make him think he belongs here." Brooks held back a reply. Just nodded. Understood. But the knot in his stomach tightened. That word, belong, clung to him all afternoon. For the next few days, the dog kept showing up. Every morning, same spot. Every evening, waiting by the side door as if it were routine. Brooks started bringing scraps, leftover burger one night, chicken the next. Nothing fancy, but it was more than the dog had before. He never asked for more. Just sat nearby while Brooks leaned against the wall during break. Two souls watching the world go by without saying a word. Brooks tried not to get attached. He really did. But on Thursday night, the weather turned again. Rain lashed the pavement, colder and meaner than before. His shift ran late, call after call, a minor accident on the freeway, a domestic dispute, a broken taillight turned roadside lecture. When he finally made it back to the car near midnight, something made him stop. There beside the front tire, curled in the shadow, soaked and shivering, was the dog. He didn't look up. Just lay there, head resting on his paws, letting the rain beat down. Brooks stood still for a long moment. His hands clenched, then relaxed. "I told you not to wait for me," he whispered. He opened the back door. The dog didn't hesitate. He stood, shook once, and climbed inside like he'd done it 100 times. Then curled on the seat, silent, not even dripping. Brooks slid into the driver's seat, shut the door, and sat there, listening to the engine hum, watching the reflection of red and blue lights flicker in the mirror. "You just made this complicated," he muttered, eyes locked forward. A soft huff came from the back seat. Brooks smirked. "Yeah, I know. But you're warm now." From that night on, the dog was no longer just a visitor. He became part of the night shift. Never during the day. Brooks was careful. He parked in side alleys, took breaks away from cameras, shared his meals from the passenger seat, never inside the precinct. The dog never misbehaved. Didn't bark. Didn't sniff around or cause mess. He just sat. Alert. Watching. Breathing in sync with the silence. One night, as they drove down the East District, windows fogged and heater humming, Brooks glanced in the mirror and said softly, "You need a name." The dog looked up, head tilted. Brooks thought for a moment. "Can't keep calling you hey you." He paused at a red light, thinking about that first day. The way the dog had simply appeared and stayed. Like a shadow that had chosen to follow him. "Scout," Brooks whispered. The dog blinked. Then laid his head back down. Brooks smiled. Scout it is. It wasn't just about food anymore. Or even company. Scout had become something Brooks couldn't explain. A presence. A calm. A quiet reminder that even on the loneliest nights, someone was choosing to sit beside him. But he knew it couldn't last forever, not in secret. One night, after his shift ended, Brooks sat in the parking lot with Scout beside him. Rain tapped the windshield like soft applause. He looked down at the worn seat, the fur starting to gather on the cushion. "You know this isn't allowed," he murmured. "You're not a stray anymore. You're a problem." Scout didn't move. Just leaned slightly, his head resting near Brooks' elbow. Brooks sighed. "And I don't care. Some partners are chosen. Others arrive in silence, and prove themselves when no one's watching." The night was still. Too still. Officer Brooks drove slowly through the west end of town, tires whispering over wet pavement. Scout lay curled in the back seat, silent as always, his head resting against the door. The heater hummed, keeping the chill at bay. It was past 2 a.m. Most people were asleep. The kind of hour where the city held its breath, except for the things that didn't want to be seen. Brooks turned onto 7th Avenue, headlights sweeping across boarded windows and cracked sidewalks. As he passed the old shipping warehouse, something flickered at the edge of his vision. A shadow moved. He slowed down. Scout's ears perked before Brooks even hit the brakes. Then came the sound. Not loud. Just a low, almost imperceptible growl from the back seat. Brooks froze. It was the first sound Scout had made since that first meeting in the rain. "You see something I don't?" Brooks asked. Scout shifted, gaze locked on the building's loading dock. Brooks flicked off the headlights, parked a block away, and stepped out, hand on his flashlight. He moved carefully through the puddles, boots soft on the concrete. Then he heard it, metal scraping. Inside the warehouse. Brooks radioed it in quickly, then drew his weapon and slipped through a side entrance. It didn't take long to find him, a man prying open crates marked EMT use only. Medical supplies. Syringes. Painkillers. The man didn't run. Just raised his hands and muttered, "It ain't what it looks like." Brooks cuffed him without a word. But as he walked the thief out into the rain, he noticed something just as surprising as the break-in. Scout was sitting at the end of the alley. Silent. Watchful. Waiting. Back at the station, Brooks finished his report. He left out a detail. No mention of the growl. No mention of the dog. He didn't need the trouble. Still, the other officers were already buzzing. "You were out with your partner again?" one of them asked, nodding toward the car. "Didn't think the mutt did patrol shifts." Brooks smirked, trying to play it off. "He just rides along. Keeps the seat warm." Another officer leaned over his desk. "You give him a name yet?" Brooks hesitated, then said quietly, "Scout." Laughter rose from the room. "Well, Scout's more alert than half this department," someone joked. "Maybe we should give him a vest." Captain Miller passed by without a word, but his eyes lingered on Brooks. Then on the patrol car parked outside. The unspoken tension was growing. But so was something else. Respect. 2 days later, they were back on the same bench. Same drizzle. Same sandwich split in half. Brooks sat under the shelter, unwrapping his lunch. Scout sat beside him now, not just near. They had crossed that invisible line. As Brooks handed him the bread, he muttered, "One of these days I'll get you real food. The kind you don't have to earn." Scout took it gently from his hand, tail brushing the pavement once. A few feet away, someone stood under an umbrella, watching. It was a woman in her 30s. She held her phone up for a moment, snapped a quick photo, then smiled. "You two look like a scene from a movie," she said warmly. Brooks looked up, surprised. "Just a regular lunch." She laughed. "Not from where I'm standing." He didn't think much of it, until the next morning. His phone buzzed non-stop before he even finished his coffee. Texts. Voicemails. Even a call from someone in city media. The image had gone viral overnight. The photo showed Brooks and Scout under the shelter, sharing a meal in the rain. No words. No pose. Just two beings sharing quiet company. The caption read, "A dog asked to join, and a man said yes." Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of shares. People commented, "This is what humanity looks like. They both look like they've seen pain, and chose kindness instead. Give that dog a badge." Brooks scrolled through the feed in disbelief. His inbox was full. Reporters wanted interviews. Strangers were offering to donate food. A woman from Oregon asked if she could paint them. He looked down at Scout, who simply licked his paw and curled back into a nap by the heater. "You really had to go and become famous, huh?" Brooks murmured. Scout huffed through his nose. Brooks chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, you earned it." But behind the moment, behind the likes and shares and digital affection, Brooks knew something real had happened. It wasn't the photo. It wasn't the story. It was the truth behind it. Scout didn't save the night because he was trained to. He didn't growl at danger because someone taught him how. He did it because he chose to. And that, Brooks realized, made him more than just a dog. It made him a partner. Not every story that touches hearts survives the rules written in ink. The viral photo was still circulating when Captain Miller stormed into the precinct with the city ordnance binder under his arm. Brooks was reviewing patrol notes at his desk. Scout lay by his feet, calm as ever. "Officer Brooks," Miller snapped, his voice sharp enough to freeze the room. "In my office. Now." Brooks stood slowly. "Yes, sir." Inside the office, the blinds were pulled. Miller slammed the binder down and pointed. Page 72. Section 3. Unauthorized animals on city property. Brooks didn't answer. Miller's voice softened, but only slightly. "You think just because the internet likes your dog, you're above protocol? You're not a hero, Brooks. You're an officer under orders." Brooks spoke quietly. "Scout's not just a dog. He's not registered. He's not trained. He's a liability. He warned me about that break-in. Led me to the thief." Miller shook his head. "Doesn't matter. You've crossed the line. Until further notice, you're suspended. And that stray? He goes." Brooks didn't argue. He didn't beg. But as he left the office, Scout trailing behind, his heart pounded, not with fear, but with something stronger. Resolve. Word spread fast. By nightfall, the story had taken a new turn. Cops suspended over stray dog who helped catch criminal. News outlets ran it like wildfire. And the public wasn't silent. A realistic German Shepherd dog with a slightly wet nose and expressive eyes stands outside on a snowy urban street, facing a large restaurant window. Snowflakes are visible on the dog's head and back, suggesting a cold winter day. The dog is gazing longingly through the glass window into a warmly lit upscale restaurant. Inside, elegantly dressed people are seated at a table with gourmet food, including a beautifully plated dish and a side of salad, placed near the window. The restaurant interior glows with golden ambient lighting, warm tones, and out-of-focus light orbs, bokeh effect. The mood is emotional and reflective, showing a stark contrast between the cozy, privileged indoor scene and the lonely, hopeful dog outside in the snow. Hyper-realistic style, cinematic lighting, emotional atmosphere, no text, no logos, no subtitles. A realistic German Shepherd dog with a slightly wet nose and expressive eyes stands outside on a snowy urban street, facing a large restaurant window. Snowflakes are visible on the dog's head and back, suggesting a cold winter day. The dog is gazing longingly through the glass window into a warmly lit upscale restaurant. Inside, elegantly dressed people are seated at a table with gourmet food, including a beautifully plated dish and a side of salad, placed near the window. The restaurant interior glows with golden ambient lighting, warm tones, and out-of-focus light orbs, bokeh effect. The mood is emotional and reflective, showing a stark contrast between the cozy, privileged indoor scene and the lonely, hopeful dog outside in the snow. Hyper-realistic style, cinematic lighting, emotional atmosphere, no text, no logos, no subtitles.